implying?
No, I don't think you know what authority means.
I know what it means. I'm saying that if
I just a different description of what authority means.
If I have responsibility for her safety, then I have to have the authority to tell her not to do unsafe things.
Yeah, but authority means that you have some form of control over this woman.
A man has authority over his wife. Yes, he does. So recently, the infamous Andrew Tate, right, sat down with Piers Morgan to talk about some of the controversial statements Tate had made in the past. And there's a portion of the interview I want to focus on. It's the part where they talked about marriage. And I believe that conversation exposes the problem with marriage today, especially in the West. It all starts with this question from Piers Morgan. Take a look.
There's no content.
Do you think women are the property of men?
No. The point I was making...
Why have you said they are?
Because I made a religious point. I said that when a man marries a woman, the woman's father walks her down the aisle, and hands her away to the man. Traditionally, this is what it says in the Bible. I'm a religious person. I believe in God. I live in the most religious country in the world.
So you do think that the woman becomes the men?
I think she takes his last name.
I mean, let's watch the clip that you said about this,
sure,
so that we can get it in context.
So I think my sister is her husband's property, yes. When a bride is walking down the aisle to marry the groom, the father walks next to her and gives her away. True or false?
Okay, so that was a major highlight of the whole conversation, focusing on the question, is the woman her husband's property? Now, if you go by the textbook definition, right, if you go by the textbook definition of property, the answer is obviously a big, gigantic no. A woman is not property. Now, there are men out there that see women as commodities that are disposable and only useful for sex. That's what it means to objectify women, to treat them as objects and not people who are equal in essence to the man. Now, equality does not mean, however, that men and women are the same. Of course, they are not. We have biological differences, temperamental differences, and so many other differences. But men and women are both human beings, and they are equal in that regard. And to think a woman is a property, a thing, an object, that is clearly misogynistic. I don't think anyone can debate it. I don't even think Andrew Tate, in his right mind, or if he really considered the import of that statement, will say, I think women are just commodities that can be disposed. I don't think that's what Andrew Tate is trying to say. So let's keep watching to see what he means exactly.
Now, and you say something and then say, well, actually, I blame you for asking.
I understand, Piers. Piers, I understand. I believe the woman is given to the man. I believe she's given away by the father. I believe she belongs to the man.
So fundamentally, you do believe that a woman becomes a man's property at marriage.
I believe she belongs to the man in marriage, correct.
Right. I mean, see, that to me is misogyny.
And you're entitled to your opinion.
Right.
Now, Piers, that's a different statement. That's a different statement. The woman belongs to the man in marriage, and the woman is the husband's property. The two are not the same. They may look the same, but they are not really the same. It all depends on what you mean by belong. I mean, people in love often use that statement. You know, you belong to me, I belong to you. And that has never been a problem, right? People will say, that's my man, that's my woman. You know, they claim some form of ownership over the other person, and that's okay, right? Being someone's property, that's wrong, misogynistic. You know, we've established that. But belonging to someone in marriage, I think that's different. Especially when you say it like that, then there is a need for you to further explain it, right? And this is where the conversation gets even more interesting, and I want you to watch what unfolds.
But a man doesn't own a woman.
It's not, no, it's, okay.
Unless they literally buy them as a slave.
Well, obviously we're not talking about that. We're talking about religious, biblical marriage. We're talking about something else.
Yeah, but I'm a Christian. I don't believe that I own my wife.
Do you believe your wife was given away to you when she took your last name?
I believe that there is a process where a father traditionally walks his daughter down the aisle and hands his daughter to this man, and they stand there and become a union of two loving people in a partnership. No, there's no ownership involved.
I didn't say ownership.
He's not selling her. The father of the bride isn't selling his daughter.
No, absolutely.
Well, that's what property means.
She becomes a member of your family.
Is it?
I think we're arguing over semantics.
We're not, though, because fundamentally, I don't believe a man owns a woman. You do.
Come on, Piers. Come on. Piers. It's clear you guys are arguing over semantics. And this is where I think Piers Morgan just shows himself to be a really terrible interviewer. I've watched some of his interviews. The one he did with Kanye West was just a fiasco. And I don't think Andrew Tate believes a woman is a commodity. To him, she's not a piece of furniture. I don't think he would say, oh, she's just a piece of furniture I can discard. But what I think the problem is for Andrew Tate is that he's finding it hard to perfectly articulate the dynamics, in a traditional marriage or a marriage in the traditional sense. In various traditions, including mine, the woman is handed over to the man in marriage and the man becomes solely responsible for her well-being and safety. She is not his property, but she is his responsibility. I think that's the best way to put it. The woman is the responsibility of the man. So it is all about semantics, and Piers is just terrible at his job. But then he asked another question, which I think relates to the question of women being property. He asked about the man having authority over his wife. And things took a really interesting turn. Take a look.
You went on to say about authority over women. If I have a responsibility over her, I must have a degree of authority.
Yeah.
For the same reason, if I have responsibility over and people are going to use their mind, it's an example, an analogy. Responsibility over a child, I have to have some authority.
Yeah.
So you believe as part of your ownership or your property of the woman, you have authority over her.
No, I believe if you have...
That's what you said.
I believe if you have responsibility over something, you have to have a degree of authority or you can't be responsible.
Yeah, but authority means, again, that you're the boss.
Oh, God, no. No, Piers, no. Guy, Jesus. What is wrong with this guy? What Andrew is saying makes a lot of sense. If you are responsible for someone, you definitely should have some authority over that person. It's only logical. There is no way you can be responsible without a degree of authority. And here is a good analogy from Andrew Tate that just explains this point. Take a look.
If you'll please let me finish at this point. The point I was trying to make was talking about the safety of a woman. She was walking alone at night. And I was saying, well, I wouldn't let my woman walk alone at night. And they said, well, you're not in charge of her. You don't get to decide what she does. I said, I understand, but if I'm responsible for her safety and I'm the person who's burdened with making sure she is safe, I have to have the authority to say, don't put yourself in unsafe situations. The two things are linked.
Well, you don't have authority. You can absolutely have the right to say to the woman you're with, I don't think you should, but ultimately...
If she decides, then I can't force her.
Right, so authority implies that you have the ability to control someone.
No, authority implies that I have the moral right to sit and say that that's an irresponsible thing to do and I'm responsible for
That's not what authority means.
Well, I'm not going to... If you think I'm going to lock somebody up in their room, is that what you're implying?
No, I don't think you know what authority means.
I know what it means. I'm saying that if
I just a different description of what authority means.
If I have responsibility for her safety, then I have to have the authority to tell her not to do unsafe things.
Yeah, but authority means that you have some form of control over this woman.
And herein lies the problem with modern day marriages. Like the concept of marriage in this day and age. This is the problem. We have a problem with the word authority. That word carries a very negative connotation for so many people. I guess to so many, that is just synonymous to the woman being property. For the modern day women especially, it is hard to differentiate between the moral authority the husband has over his wife, who he owes an obligation to. It is difficult to differentiate between that and the right one may have over an object that is just mere property. For the modern woman, they seem to be the same thing. And I'm going to go ahead and say it. A man has authority over his wife. Yes, he does. Yes, he has a say over what she does. Yes, he gets to exercise a level of control. But it is all consensual. And that's what makes the difference. You consent to the authority of the man when you decide to marry him. You give yourself willingly to be with him, and he gets to have a say over various aspects of your life. And if you are not ready to give up your autonomy, if your autonomy is so important to you, then maybe you shouldn't consider getting married. My dad would say, if you see a lady who says she cannot answer to any man, then you've seen a lady you shouldn't marry. Ladies, before I lose you, that's if I've not already lost you. If you have not, clicked off this video already, I need you to understand something. A marriage is likely to collapse if the man does not have or exercise any authority over his spouse. I mean, think about it. How can you be responsible for someone else when you have no say over what they choose to do? Imagine a relative comes to live with you and you have no control over when they come into your house or leave or what they do with your property. Nothing. They just come in and go whenever and wherever they want. I mean, you have no say. They just do whatever they want. And they are living under your roof, under your protection, under your care. You know that is not going to work, right? Then imagine you have a spouse whom you are supposed to provide for and protect, but they are allowed to do whatever they want to, whether you agree to it or not. Do you think that relationship is going to work? See, this is why you need to be careful. Ladies, this is why you need to be careful about who you marry. You want someone who is caring and responsible. You don't want to end up with a child who would abuse his authority and lord it over you. You don't want a man who is egotistic and selfish and full of himself. You want someone who will listen to you and really take good care of you. It's like choosing a president or a group leader. You want someone who is competent, who is smart and caring. That's why you carefully consider the candidate and watch all the debates in the primaries, especially the primaries. Because once the primaries have been decided, everybody just stick to the candidate from their political party. But the primary debate is important because that is where you get to choose. But when that person is selected and they win the election, they just need to exercise some authority which you have given to them. Right? It is freely given when people vote. And the same thing applies to marriage. That is why it is not just okay that you guys are in love. You have to ask yourself some basic, really serious questions. Like, is he the kind of man you want? Does he have what it takes? And I'm not talking about money. Like, does he really have the strength of character it takes to be a loving husband and a good father? Or are you about to tie the knot with a boy in extended adolescence? You need to ask some very careful questions before you enter into, this kind of long-term relationship with anybody. But, if you believe that you are an independent woman who is strong and capable and doesn't need to answer to any man, if that is you, then by all means, please remain single, right? And for the men particularly, especially the ones who think, this reality, is an opportunity for you to heave your chest with pride like you are the boss. No, you are a servant leader. There's a huge responsibility on your shoulders that should humble you. Your role as a husband makes you a servant. Yes, as a husband and father, you are actually a servant to your family. That's a whole lot of responsibility. And if you are not willing to deny yourself and look after your family spiritually, morally, and financially, if you are not ready to take the lead, to be in charge, to really be in charge and take full responsibility for everything that happens in that home and to ensure that there is everything is in place, that there is peace, there is growth, there is prosperity in every aspect of every member of your family. Like, every member of your family is flourishing. If you're not ready to look after their well-being, if you're not interested in the growth of your family, then please do your best to also remain single.